Welcome to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast post-season, where we're going through the worst of the best drivers. We did the first, not drivers, races. What I'm on about. We did the drivers last time. Do check that out. But yeah, the worst of the best races. We did the worst 11 in the first parts. Do check that out as well before you listen to this. Spoilers. There's a lot of Tilka drums down there. And this time we're covering the best and the 10 that absolutely thrilled you, the 10 most unforgettable ones, the 10 most incredible ones. So kicking it off, we have Canada, a race that was extremely controversial, probably the most controversial of the season, Alex, because of that incredibly polarizing event between Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. I mean, that's one that people are going to be debating for a long time.
Yeah, that really overshadowed what was a great race in Canada. The decision by the stewards to give a 5-second penalty to Vettel. But my take on it was the fact that should Vettel have made that mistake? No, he shouldn't. As we've said many times this season, a driver of his caliber shouldn't be pressured into mistakes like that by the guy who was chasing him. So it worked out well for Lewis. But yeah, it was a shame that it went that way. And I think had that not happened, we would have probably rated Canada even higher. We really did spoil it.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, Vettel shouldn't have made that mistake. He's made a lot of mistakes this year, as he has been doing for the last few seasons. But at the end of the day, it's not, he makes a mistake, he should suffer for it. But Owain, should he have suffered a penalty for that? Because it's been that long now. I can't remember what we all said on it. I think we took the standpoint that it was basically, to the letter of the law, he should have got a penalty. But it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I can see both sides, to be honest. So I could understand why you give a penalty, but I can understand the argument against it. I cannot remember off the top of my head what I said at the time, where I came down on it ultimately. The more I think about it, the more it changes with that sort of thing. I think, maybe he could have done more to control the car, but then again, what can he do? How much grip? Only he's going to know whether he could or not. So I think you just got to go with, sometimes you just got to suck it up a little bit and take the decisions as they come. And it's good because it kept the championship alive. Well, it sort of, I say kept the championship alive, it sort of probably killed it a little bit more, but oh well.
I think the championship was almost decided by that point. I mean, not that side, but I think Vettel was definitely out of it by that point. It's to Mercedes really. Hamilton winning. He won 6 of the first 8 and second in the other 2. He's done all right this year. He's done all right. I mean, Canada, a very, very controversial one. But aside from that, the Vettel Hamilton thing, Alex, I don't remember too much happening with this one. I mean, I think it was a great drive by Lance Stroll. I think he got to the points from the back of the grid. Ricardo got a good result. He got best of the rest. Aside from that, though, I don't think there was too much happening really.
I think at the time it was just seen as a good race because if you remember at the start of the season, there weren't that many races where there were. Bahrain was, as we've said before, was pretty interesting. So Canada coming off the back of races like Spain and Azerbaijan was a lot better. So I think that's why I remembered it. But obviously, when we think about what happened later on in the season with races like Germany, Brazil, we quickly forgot about Canada now, and it's where it was. Yeah, and like I say, I think Canada just really was overshadowed by the Vettel and Hamilton.
Another thing that I just remembered as well from it was that there's controversy yet again with Ferrari, Owain, because if you remember, because Vettel got his penalty and he got that penalty before the end of the race, if Leclerc kept pushing and if he knew about that penalty, he could have effectively overtaken Vettel. He could have got within those 5 seconds. So that was one of the first Ferrari, like, oh, what's going on here? Who's number one driver really here?
Oh no, that started a long time before Canada, but yeah, it's just a case of I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen, and you get into the sort of a scenario: did Ferrari tell Leclerc, or was he not told so that Vettel can maintain position over him? Like we're not going to really know, but yeah, it sort of wouldn't have helped the controversy within it.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, kind of decent race, but really elevated because of the controversy there. Next up, Singapore. Singapore got 9th. Now, Singapore's a track, Alex, that I've actually, surprisingly, when I was asking about it, got a lot of hate for. They were saying, it's it's very dull. It's not the best track, all this and that. It's only good because it looks good in the night, and it does look fantastic in the night. It's incredible. But I think as a track, I've got nothing against it. I mean, the physical challenge that these drivers are under to race around there for two hours, that by itself for me, I just think that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Singapore is a very difficult circuit. It's a everything you expect from a street circuit, and the temperatures around there are really high. So it does put a lot of strain on the drivers. I think there was one year, I think Fernando Alonso's water bottle stopped. He was going around the whole race without water, which that is an amazing achievement.
I think that's
Singapore
Raikkonen last year as well. I was that hungry. I'm getting mixed up with.
it happened with somebody, but I think with Singapore, what people don't like about it is, especially in the era with going on the whole race with fuel for the whole race. Sorry, I forget what I'm saying. And tyre management. You get in cars, a bit like what Ricardo did in Monaco. No, forget I said that. It's nothing to do with it. No, you're getting a lot of drivers driving within themselves, because they don't want to destroy the tyres, so the lap times are a lot slower than they really could be. And I think that's where the criticism comes from.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, but you arguably get that around every track to some degree, but it is more around Singapore just because the walls are so close. Another thing I think that's got this race so high, Owain, was that Vettel managed to win. It's first win in over a year, and he's not managed to do it since. It's a relatively rare event, and you wouldn't have guessed that back in the Red Bull days, would you?
Well, no, they sort of seem to dominate in that sort of era, and it's just completely gone away. So, I mean, I've made my thoughts on Vettel clear, just based on sort of his performance ever since he's got to Ferrari in the last 3 years. And yeah, it's just you could tell that they were just driving within themselves. As you say, Leclerc for the first sort of stint just tootling around really, because there was no way for anyone behind them to do anything, and it's only when you get onto the pit stops that they actually started to change.
Yeah, there we go. Singapore, fantastic spectacle just to look at, but maybe as a race, not the best. Let us know your thoughts. Tweet us at F1 Chronicle, or tweet me personally at Georgie Howson 95. Let us know. Just might as well throw that out there.
The cynic in me thinks that Sebastian Vettel was gifted that win by Ferrari to kind of get his mojo back, because after it was really downcast after Monaco. Remember where he spun off and then Stroll nearly got into him. So yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. That way, I'm probably wrong. I'm not saying that's right, but it wouldn't surprise me.
If any team would do that, though, it would be Ferrari. They'd be the ones to do something like that. But
Fernando is faster than you.
Yeah, I mean that how do I put this? That full on when it comes to passion and stuff like that. They just forget sometimes to think about things. I don't think with how bad they've been this season in terms of the strategy stuff. I'm not sure they'd be coordinated enough to be able to pull that off. Just let's give it to Vettel. He'll get number one. Leclerc will get number two. The old Ferrari would have done that, no problems. But the new Ferrari, the current Ferrari, they might not have even had that in them. But there we go.
Tactically inept is how I'd describe it.
Yeah, they have been this year. Some of the strategy decisions have been bonkers. They've done literally everything wrong with the team orders as well. Like they said, oh yeah, you can't pass, when they said, oh yeah, you should be able to pass, and it's just not got the head screwed on properly there. They're going to need a big shake up to compete next year at the top, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. 8th, Belgium, Spa-Francorchamps. Hell of a track, but a pretty decent race to be fair, Alex. I mean, some great comeback by Hamilton to nearly take the win, and Charles Leclerc's first win in F1, something that was very, very overdue by that point.
It was long overdue. It could have happened a lot earlier than that, I think. It was probably about 3 races he could have won before that. Belgium, if you remember, was overshadowed by the tragic death of Antoine Hubert in the F2 race on Saturday. And that really put down a somber mood over the whole weekend, really. And I think everyone was just glad to get that race over with. But it was, which is a shame, because a circuit like Spa, which as we know is fantastic, and so to have that mood around that circuit really does affect it big time. It was Charles Leclerc's first win. It was a great performance by him as well, because he was coming under pressure from Hamilton, and there was a lot of overtaking throughout the field as well. My most vivid memory of Spa is just how tragic it was for Lando Norris, because he retired with 1 lap to go, and it would have been a great haul of points for him.
Yeah, he was up there, best of the rest, like 7th, 8th, something like that, wasn't he?
I think it was 5th.
Was he fifth? Oh my
Yeah, it was
God.
something like that.
So unlucky, Annie Norris, this year. He's had a fantastic year. We gave him an A in our driver ratings all across the board, but man, yeah, he's been unlucky too. That was a bad one, that. And yeah, and obviously Hubert's death as well. I mean, that was horrible. I couldn't believe that. When I saw that come on Twitter, I thought, no, this can't be true. It was. But I mean, as bad as that is, and rest in peace, Antoine. I mean, as bad as that is, Juan Manuel Correa, he's making amazing progress. He's up and walking now. He was involved in that crash too, so that's really, really good to see. I wish him all the best in his recovery as well, because he'll get there. He'll get there. He's still young. He's got time on his side, so hopefully he can get back to racing soon. Yeah, I mean, like Alex said, it's events outside of F1 really overshadowed that weekend. It's not one I can really recall too well, but as a race, it was pretty good. There was some good moves going in on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Spelleris puts up a good race usually, so yeah. But obviously, the racing wasn't really the biggest thing that weekend. So yeah, it's a shame that we've had to see that, and I think it's a good reminder that motorsport, however safe, won't be safe enough. So we need to keep moving forward on that one and keep trying to make it as safe as possible.
100%. Yeah, you're standing still on something like this, you're moving backwards. They'll always try and improve it. But yeah, so moving on. Hungary was number 7. Surprised it was this low, actually. I thought Hungary was an absolutely mesmeric race. I mean, the battle between Hamilton and Verstappen at the front, just something else, really, wasn't it, Alex? I mean, I think everybody thought when Hamilton picked, that's it, they're just going for the fastest lap. But the pace he had with those new tyres, he was absolutely on rails.
Well, I think everybody thought that Hungary would be a procession because, let's not kid ourselves, it has been a lot in the time it has been on the case. It's one of the longest serving races now. It's been on the calendar since 1986. Yeah. But you could probably count on one hand the classics that have been there. But this year was very good. It was very enjoyable with the battle between Verstappen and Hamilton, and then Hamilton got him just towards the end. But it was a fantastic race. I remember saying at the time, the great thing about that was there was no penalties, there was no controversy. It was just a race from start to finish, and that's what, as fans, we really want to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that maybe made it not as high up the list, Owain, is that it was really Hamilton and Verstappen at the front, and nobody else anywhere near. I mean, Vettel finished third, but I think he was almost a minute off the lead. It was just those two really. But sometimes a dogfight for a lead like that—that's what people are clamoring for.
Yeah, it's just a class of two really at the top. I honestly think that with Leclerc nipping at their heels, Verstappen and Hamilton are probably the two best racers in the sport at the moment, and so it was great to see them sort of slug it out. Obviously, Mercedes made a tactically genius move to take the new tyres, but you got to give it to Hamilton for being able to even going from a position of I'm not sure this is the right idea to be able to pull an average of over a second a lap on Verstappen to get back to him. Obviously, that's been amazing. So, that's really what kicked up the race, the enjoyment of the race. So you would just, I was riveted. It was one of those nail-biting things where you're like, is he going to catch him? Is he not? And he managed to. So, yeah, that's what kept it up for me as one of the standout races of the season.
Yeah, without doubt, it was one of the standout for me as well. I mean, yeah, it's a track that it's so difficult to overtake around, but when there is a classic there, it's a real classic, and I'll definitely join that handful of classic races, Alex. That one.
Well, if you remember as well, Hungary this year wasn't that was Pierre Gasly's last race for Red Bull, and if my memory serves correctly, wasn't he a lap down on Verstappen at the end? Was that Austria? I can't remember.
I think it was both.
Yeah, and that was quite eye-opening. I think. I think when the announcement over the summer that Gasly was being dropped and Albon would be brought in, it wasn't as surprising as you would have expected it to be.
No, I mean, it still came as a little bit of a surprise given that they were like, oh, we'll keep him, don't worry, we're giving him time. And it's just like, nope, time's up, gone. You can't do that again. Yeah, I think
that's helmet Marco for you.
It is helmet Marco for you. I mean, there was two Pierre Gasly's this year. There was the one in Red Bull who literally just flunked, he got sacked, and then there was one in the Toro Rosso who did a brilliant job on the whole. We'll get into some of his better results in the latter part of the season soon. Going back all the way almost to the very start of the season, Bahrain was 6th in our list. And there was so much that happened in this one, to be fair, especially late on. There was the heartbreak of Leclerc with his engine troubles. There was both Renault's engines going as well. There was a crash with Sainz and Verstappen. There was a hell of a lot happening in Owain, and just one of them action-packed races around a track that in the past I've not really liked, but ever since it's gone under the lights, I think it's been good.
Yeah, they've managed to make some good. Yeah, something about it has made the racing absolutely brilliant for whatever reason. It's just been excellent. So Hamilton and Rosberg in 2014, we got a similar amount of that between Vettel and Hamilton this year. So absolutely. Unfortunately, we saw Vettel making a mistake again in wheel-to-wheel combat, but it's still very, very good the entire time, and kept you interested. And it's one of those, I think, described it at the time as it's one of those races that if you wanted to get someone into Formula One, show someone what Formula One is all about, that's the one you'd pick. That is one you'd pick and to give them an essence of what it can be.
Yeah, I mean, that was a hell of a race. I absolutely loved it as well. And you're right, that is one that you would show people, show someone who's never seen F1 before, never sat down and watched it, just watch that one and see what it's all about. I mean, it was race number 999, Alex, and we all thought, oh, maybe this season we'll have some amazing races. And we did in the end, but for a long time after that, this was the one that really stood out above the rest.
It really did, and I think had Leclerc's engine issue not occurred, and he had taken his first win there, I think would have remembered it even more fondly than we do. Because when you look at the statistics on a piece of paper, it was another Mercedes 1-2, but that race really was not a Mercedes dominant performance. You mentioned, George, that it wasn't a circuit that you particularly liked. I think what really has helped Bahrain is the addition of DRS. Whether you like it or don't, it's very effective there. Some of the races in the noughties in Bahrain weren't that great. And obviously the first DRS race was 2012 because it wasn't on the calendar in 2011. And then they moved under the lights in 14, and the races since then they've been very good. Lots of overtaking, lots of action, and this year was no exception.
Yeah, really good race, and everything in the day had a lot of heartbreak for Leclerc as well. I don't like Ferrari. I'm pretty sure a lot of people on here already know that, but I felt so sorry for the guy. I really did. I really wanted him to do well there. And that third place was just awful. Just watching Hamilton gain on him by like 3 or 4 seconds a lap. He was miles clear Leclerc, and just wasn't to be. But he got his success later in the year, and the kid's got a very bright future. He's got a really bright future. In terms of performance, that's his team right now. It's up to Vettel to try and take it back. I'm not sure he can, because Leclerc is a super talent. But yeah, so moving back to the races themselves, another really good one for Leclerc this time. Italia, number 5. Absolutely brilliant race. And I think let's try and find the quote itself. But, some people are actually putting this as the number 1 just because the emotion away after the race of Ferrari winning that race, Leclerc winning that race, and then winning the Italian Grand Prix for the first time in 9 years. It's been an age.
Yeah, it's one of those races where you expect Ferrari to actually dominate because their philosophy seems to, it seems to be something that would be, what's the best word, conducive, I'll say, to wins at Italy. And, it's one of those places where you really want to win. You've got to try and win it as Ferrari, and they managed it, and just class of the field at that point. A stupid mistake from Vettel there, in the race, but yeah, it was good. It was nice and interesting. Kept us on our toes about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was action packed right to the end as well. I mean, Leclerc resisting both Hamilton and Bottas, Alex. I mean, that really just showed that the guy has got fantastic resilience. He's got real racecraft. Yeah,
he does, and he showed it there. Although there was some controversy because he ran wide at the first chicane, didn't he?
Oh yeah.
But then what happened afterwards? He got a black and white flag, which is like the equivalent of a yellow card or something. And I was watching at the time, and there were a lot of cynics saying that's only happening because it's in Italy, and had it not happened in Italy, he would have got a penalty. But I won't get into that. It was a fantastic race, and like you said, seeing the emotion on the podium, the Tifosi all there, because the podium in Monza is fantastic when it goes over the track like that, and it was a race worthy of the rest.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll get into the controversy. It's fine. I'm not gonna shy away from that. I think if I was one of those people on Twitter, if that did happen anywhere else in the world, he would have got a penalty, but he didn't. But there you go. It was still a brilliant drive by him in the day. You can't take it away from him. He resisted both Mercs in the day. That's something that's very, very difficult to do. He resisted Hamilton in Belgium before, but there was under so much pressure there, and the pressure of actually being in Italy itself. You know, the expectations. You know, we went into that weekend thinking, you know, Wayne, that Ferrari were going to dominate, but until it actually happens, you know, you're just not quite sure just because of the blunders they've had this season.
Well, yeah, and obviously they'd had that win the week before, but you didn't know whether they'd be able to convert that. But obviously they were just suited to it, so it was their weekend. You know, I couldn't really see anyone really being able to get the best of them, really.
Yeah, it would have been very difficult, and some surprise results in there as well. I mean, like you had the Renaults, Ricciardo and Hulkenberg had a poor season, really, but they got 4th and 5th there around the track where you expect them to really, really struggle. What were some of the results? Gasly managed to get points. Albon another solid drive. You know, it's yeah, there was a hell of a lot going on there. It was a very good all round race, and another track that's under threat. But Alex, we absolutely have to keep it for the future. You know, Monza has to be on the F1 count. There's no doubt about it. It really does worry me when I see, you know, these articles saying from 2021 it'll go and stuff like that. But I think they'll keep it on. I can't see them getting rid of it anytime soon.
It's absolutely sacrilegious to drop tracks like Monza. I think, in my opinion, there are circuits that you know you need to have. Silverstone, Monza, Spa, Monaco. They're the 4 that just should never be dropped from the calendar at all. They need to be on it all the time. You need to have a French Grand Prix because it's the birthplace of motorsport. Japan because it's the fan base there is unbelievable. So they're the ones that should never be touched at all.
100% agree with you. I think there should always be a German Grand Prix as well. But
yeah, that's German Grand Prix as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but there you go. That's the situation we find ourselves in. Hopefully, Hockenheim will be back though. Hopefully, it will be. It was gone before and it came back, so hopefully it'll come back again. But Germany's not doing too well right now, so we'll see.
It's a pity there's no other circuits. Well, I suppose there are, but there's Nürburgring, but that just seems to have gone bankrupt, I think. Amongst the organisers, they couldn't find the funds to host it. But apart from that, there's no really other circuits in Germany that could potentially host an F1 race, I think. Sachsenring was linked, which the MotoGP used, but that's too small.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't name any other German circuits other than like the Norris Ring or something like that, but that ain't going to have F1 round it. That's like an F3 track.
I mean, can you imagine the memes, though, if they did go there?
It'd be hilarious.
Well, no.
Literally, Norris Ring, yeah. I just got that, yeah. Oh, man. If you didn't win that, that'd be terrible. But anyway. So, yeah, Italy, keep it on the calendar. Brilliant race this year as well. Love seeing cars. It's the speed of Monza, just the speed itself. It's so eye-opening.
Imola or Monza, would you say?
Monza. Monza now. The old Imola, despite it being obviously a very dangerous circuit, the old Imola maybe would have topped Monza for me. But I think the new Monza's just too, the chicanes kind of ruin the flow, which is the point. I totally understand why they're there, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. That doesn't mean the racing has to be good for it. So for me, it's Monza.
I'd like to see Imola come back, to be fair, under the guise of like a San Marino Grand Prix.
San Marino Grand Prix, those are the days.
Or if they took an alternate years, I think.
No, Monza's got to be on every year for me. It has to be. I won't mind a San Marino Grand Prix, but I just can't see Italy hosting 2 Grand Prix now.
Well, back in the 2000s, you might have got away with it. Like, you know, at the height of the Ferrari control over the FIA era, you might have had one around Fiorano.
Yeah, there would have been a Fiorano one if they had the way. Bloody hell! Can you imagine that?
I can actually. That's the worst part about it.
Vatican City Grand Prix, like just.
Bernie would have liked it because it's got a sprinkler system there.
Hey.
It does, yeah, he wouldn't even have to change anything.
I'm sorry, I'm stealing your joke.
Honestly, I didn't know it had a sprinkler system.
Yeah,
it makes sense, but I didn't know.
Paul Ricard has one too. They need to use it.
But with a country hosting 2 Grand Prix on the calendar now isn't really with there being that many races now.
Those days are over.
It's like because with the Miami, I don't think Miami would replace Coach. I think it's going to be an event on its own. And Liberty are on about having another race in China as well, which I can't understand. It's
Oh
like,
God!
a country should not have 2 Grand Prix on the case. That's taking up spots.
I
On
think
the
it takes too much away from the actual one because we've got the Miami Grand Prix and the US Grand Prix, and it just kind of takes a bit away from the US GP. I think. That's our opinion. Let us know what you think. There have been times in the past where there's been 3 races in the USA, believe it or not. Detroit, Caesars Palace, Watkins Glen. They all had a race for a couple of years in all 3 of those places. So it can happen, but it probably shouldn't. But if one country could do it, it is the USA, I think.
Yeah.
Just the size and the finance they've got behind them. But I don't really like that, to be honest. But yeah, so something we did like, though, something we did love collectively, was this year's British Grand Prix, 4th on the list. And I think in terms of just pure racing, it was arguably the best one, Alex. I mean, there was some brilliant battles. Was it between Verstappen and Leclerc? You know, just overtaking each other back-to-back laps on the Angus Straight, and then the crash with Vettel. There was so much going on.
There was action from lap 1 to the end of the race. It was a fantastic display of what Formula 1 should be about. It started with Bottas, obviously from pole position, and then Hamilton got him. There was fantastic battles all the way down the field, as you mentioned, Leclerc and Verstappen. Some fantastic moves going into Stowe, and then the Vettel incident with Verstappen, which got a big ooh from the crowd because I was there. So I saw it right in front of my eye. But Silverstone was absolutely fantastic, and it was the perfect result for Lewis.
Yeah, the home fans really would have loved that one. And that's the thing about Silverstone, I think. Some people say that because the cars, because they're so quick now, that it's not that much of a challenge anymore. But it's still a real big challenge. There's some huge corners there, and you know, I think the speed that they can go around some of these, I think, just adds to the thrill of it. It's absolutely mesmeric watching qualifying there.
Yeah, I mean they've slowed the cars down significantly by putting in more corners on that track, but it's still so good, and I think it's one of those changes that has been made for the better. But it's one of those old school Grand Prix tracks, and it does produce sort of old school good racing.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, it's a track that up until now until this year, we didn't know whether it'd be around in 2020. Thank God it is. And let's keep it on the calendar for as long as possible. Because if we're being honest, nobody wants a London GP. We do not want a London GP to replace.
I'd watch it.
Well, we'd watch it. We watch every race, don't we? You know, we're going to watch Vietnam next year. That's going to be thrilling, I'm sure. Watch it be an absolute...
Hassel take 10 years to get halfway up the track. Are we all good?
I don't know what you're there.
I don't know. Don't worry, it's fine.
Oh man, but yeah, no, Silverstone this year absolutely thrilling, and a great British sporting event. I'm sure we're not biased here, are we?
No, not at all.
Not at all. No. Good to see Hamilton win as always round there. You know, 6 wins round there, just something else. 6 wins and 6 titles this year.
The old man in me strikes again because it's circuits like Silverstone. You know, we've got the corners have got proper names like Stowe, Chapel.
Yeah.
On modern circuits now, they're just all turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. You know, it's these old school circuits where all the corners have names. It's just there's something about it just makes it really nice.
It gives them personality, gives them character. Just like, turn 8 is 180 mile an hour right hander. It's just like, no, Cops is 180 mile an hour right hander. That just gives it so much more fear. You know, it's just like, that is a proper corner.
It's one of those
time to do it, but still.
It's one of those tracks you show someone, you show an enthusiast one photograph, they know exactly what it is. It's that sort.
100% agree. You can take a picture on any part of the track with a car and you'll know where it is if you've seen enough races there. Can't say the same for some circuits. There you go. But yeah. So British Grand Prix, brilliant. Absolutely loved it. Amazing race. Another amazing race though. On the first one on the podium, Brazil. Oh man, what a race that was! I just could not believe what I was seeing. I mean, try and sum up everything that happened there, because the podium itself in Brazil is something to talk about. Like, if you saw it and you didn't know what the race results are, you think it was Photoshop. You never believe that's what actually happened.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just complete. It was like organised mayhem, really. You know, I just kept wondering why Hamilton ended up so far. He just seemed to be either get caught up or get just get passed by the Red Bull so easily. It was just, I have no idea what was happening. It was all, it was just just quite interesting.
Yeah, it was a brilliant race. I mean, a few people did put it as their number one, including Out Vehicle Valhalla on Twitter. He said, Brazil, great battles and surprises throughout, which is just pretty much how you sum it up, really. He went for Silverstone as well because of the glimpse versus Max versus Charles Leclerc in the future. Yeah, Brazil, unbelievable. I mean, Max Verstappen winning it itself is a bit of a surprise given the Red Bull's not the best car, but he absolutely dominated that weekend. And for once, a rush of blood to the head for Lewis Hamilton of all people, Alex. I mean, just everything that shouldn't have happened. Things you just would not see coming. I never saw Hamilton driving into Albon. I thought he would have just not overtook him. I thought he would have got past, but he just slammed into the side of him.
Well, F1 is the most boring sport in the world, isn't it? Yeah. You need to show that race to the people who say that, because that was just incredible race. And as you mentioned, that we saw a rare glimpse of Lewis just getting a bit of exuberant in it, and it was one move that didn't work out. He had the championship sewn up by then, so it didn't really make a world of difference. It did for Albon, because what a fantastic podium that would have been for him. But having said that, it enabled McLaren to get their first podium for almost 6 years, which is something we've all been craving. And it was, I think it wasn't my number one, but I think it was my number two actually. But it was deservedly so. It was a modern classic.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of them races. I mean, it's a controversial subject because you get the races in the past where they had really, really surprise results, like usually like De Cesaris or someone like that in a Real getting a podium or a points finish. You had that in this race though because of the unreliability. You had Pierre Gasly making a Red Bull 1-2 of sorts with Toro Rosso in second. You had Sainz with the first podium for McLaren in over 5 years. You had Alfa Romeo 4 and 5 after a relatively dismal season for them. Had some real big. Even Ricciardo being in sixth with a Renault was not that much of a surprise in the end. Yeah, you even had Russell almost getting in the points. Everything was happening everywhere, Owain, and it just shows what Interlagos is and why we shouldn't lose it from the calendar. But going forward, that looks like it's going to happen after this year.
Yeah, it's a shame with the leadership in Brazil that's going to possibly mess with the calendar, because I absolutely love Interlagos. It's pretty much always a good race. It got to the point where it's just like, who could have seeing the two Ferraris run into each other was just a thing that happened. You were just like, any other day, any other race, that would be a big thing, and yet it wasn't here. It was just like, well, that's it's the sort of thing that happens in this race.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it? Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, it did happen, and
exactly. That's how mental everything else was. You forgot about two Ferraris running into each other.
Yeah, I know.
I forgot to mention that as well.
Yeah, it's that much that happened that you just forgot about it. Yeah, just absolutely mental race, it really was, and it was a good battle as well at the front between Hamilton and Verstappen for the most part of the race too. I love seeing that. Those two, I would love to see a proper championship battle between those two next year. Two different teams, two great drivers. The guy who's won the most titles in, apart from Schumacher ever, against the guy who people say, right, this is the new Schumacher, this is the new Senna. That's something I really want to see over the whole of the next season, but it just depends how the development race goes. So yeah, Brazil, keep it on the calendar. And keep it at Interlagos as well. Nobody wants it to move to Rio de Janeiro. Nobody does. Apart from the president of Brazil who's deciding this because, he's pretty much a dictator. So what he says goes in that country, unfortunately. There you go. Political rant over. Back to the F1, which really matters. Second place, you could probably see this one coming. It is Austria. Now, a lot of things happen here. A lot of incredible circumstances, really. I mean, I was actually in Vienna that weekend when that race was being hosted. It got to nearly 40 degrees. It was like the desert. It was so unbelievably hot. And that, Owain, made for a race where it was extremely unpredictable.
Yeah. I would honestly not have expected the result that we got. I was just like, well, how?
Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? That the Mercs both suffered with overheating issues in the cars. You had Verstappen with his awful start and then coming back to win it. The controversy with the move itself, that wasn't decided until after the race. a bit of a dampener on it, where the Dutch fans left that race not knowing whether their man actually won it or not. What else happened as well? Vettel with a good comeback at the end. Pierre Gasly being lapped by his teammate. That was the first time that happened. Carlos Sainz as well, another brilliant drive for him. I think didn't he go from the back to fifth, Alex? I know he ended up fifth in the end, but he went from way back at the tail end of the grid all the way to the very, very solid points.
Yeah, it was. That's been a tale of Sainz's season, really. He's good at fighting his way back to the field, and he did it in Austria. The race in Austria was exactly what we were needed at the time, because it was the week after the French Grand Prix, which is a calamity. And so to have a race like that firmly put people back in love with F1 again, because the amount of stick that it was getting after France was unbelievable. And then as soon as the good race happens, everyone's opinion changes. And it would have been a shame if Verstappen had been stripped of the win, because what a drive that was, and it would have been a really anticlimactic if he hadn't been penalised. I don't think he did anything wrong, to be perfectly honest. I think there was a gap, and I think Leclerc should have realised that he was there. And it was, but yeah, I think that was my number 2. Actually, Brazil was my number 3, and it was an amazing race.
It really was, yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. There's no way it should have been a penalty. But everybody was thinking after what happened in Canada it was going to be. But thankfully they saw sense and it wasn't. Because at the end of the day, if that was grass instead of tarmac runoff, Leclerc would have backed out. Because there's tarmac runoff, he just kept his his throttle planted. And yeah, just complained about it, as any driver would. Any driver would complain about it and try and get an advantage, but he shouldn't be handed it. And thankfully he wasn't. Thankfully he was not handed that, because. And I mean, you can have your opinions on Red Bull. I used to hate them in F1. I used to think they were a bad thing for the sport, but I think they're a very good thing now, because they're bringing through talents like Albon, like Verstappen, like Sainz. Quite a good chunk of the grid was involved with Red Bull at some point. And to see Red Bull win at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, I think it's good for them, because they're always on about leaving, but they're still getting those wins in there. They're still getting the success that not quite what they want. They want to win the championship, obviously, but they're still getting something. So. That's good to see as well, I think. And also the Dutch fans as well.
It wouldn't have been great for Leclerc either, though. And getting your first win by the guy in front getting a penalty is not really the way you want to win the first Grand Prix. So I think it was just better all around that no action was taken.
100%, yeah. And really good as well seeing the Dutch fans away. I mean, the Dutch Grand Prix next year is going to be something else, isn't it? It's going to be absolute manic.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to change the filters on my TV so that it isn't all orange. No, especially with the banking. Apparently, they're adding it's going to be steeper than some.
It's almost we went over this in another episode. It's almost the same as the old Monza banking. So it's gonna. I think it's that final corner before the straight, isn't it? It's good. It's going to be an absolute slingshot and a half.
Good luck to Red.
Yeah. Them front wings are good. There's going to be a few front wings broken with that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully it goes all smooth.
We'll have to bend them like that.
Yeah. That's going to play havoc with the aerodynamics, that, isn't it? Can you imagine that? Way too much flex.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Austria, a very worthy number 2, I think. I went for Brazil personally as my number 2, but Austria that was one where it's like, which one should it go? Which order? And we ended up with number 2 with Austria in the end. And unsurprisingly, number 1, consistently number 1 in our rankings, number 1 for, I think, for almost everybody, Germany, Hockenheim Ring. I mean, we haven't got all day, but we're just trying to sum up what happened. Like everything, absolutely everything happened.
Even Kubica got points.
Even Robert Kubica got a point. Like everything happened. Hulkenberg crashed out. I think Leclerc crashed out. I'm going to go through the actual race report. Sorry for the clicking. Some people hate the clicking, but I'm going to go for the full race report here, because just to summarise who actually went out and everything. I mean,
well, Perez on lap 2 or 3, managing to somehow, he's famed for having quite a delicate touch with his right foot, getting out of corners, and yet it was so little grip, he just managed to spin it off into the wall. Vettel started 20th, was it?
Yeah, his engine packed up in qualifying and he started at the back.
Yeah, and Vettel started in 20th, and halfway, like 3 or 4, not many laps through the race, he was 10th, and Leclerc started 10th and ended up 5th. not ended up fifth, but was fifth a little bit of the way through the race. So they made massive progress, and people dropping it when the rain got a bit heavier on the last two corners and just throwing it off into the ice rink, as they called it on the commentary.
It pretty much was, wasn't it? I mean, this is just the advocate for the sprinkler system. You put rain in F1, it just makes it so much more eventful. I mean, all you have to do is just look at the positions at the end compared to when they started. Max Verstappen won the race; he was second when he started. That's not a big one, but Vettel was 20th; he finished second. Kvyat got a podium in the Toro Rosso.
Well, you wouldn't have
third.
You wouldn't have expected it from Verstappen because he had an awful start.
Yeah.
I mean, if you saw the video of Christian Horner's face afterwards, it was just kind of like, oh my god.
Should have more faith in his driver. He should have remembered Brazil 2016 because in the hindsight, not much of a surprise.
It was just like, oh no, what's happened there?
Yeah,
Hamilton.
Very tricky.
Hamilton went off in the rain. Bottas crashed out.
Yeah.
Well, Verstappen spun in the middle of the race as well.
Yeah, he did.
Oh wow, yeah, and he still managed to keep it going. So.
Yeah. No, it was insane. I mean, just going through the results again. Lance Stroll looked like he might have got another podium. He started 15. Albon, he went from 16th to 6th. He was still in the Toro Rosso at that point. Don't forget. The Haas still had a good race. 7th and 8th. They're having an awful time at that part. And yeah, Hamilton. Mercedes is what was it there? There's some sort of big anniversary celebration, didn't they?
125th anniversary in motorsport.
And they had a horrid race. Bottas crashing out, and Hamilton 9th for the special car. They will never bring back that white livery. They will never bring it. That is dead and buried now.
It's a bad luck charm. First, it put them over the weight limit, and now it's caused them to lose up half of the cars and finish in 9th.
Yeah. No.
And him and Hamilton only got 9th, and Kubica got that solitary point because both Alphas got disqualified. So if that hadn't happened, it would have been a pointless race, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah.
And Williams, it would have been a pointless season for Williams if it weren't for that as well. So there you go.
Yeah, it's not what we want to see. We want to see Williams scoring at least.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it made the best drivers in the world look like amateurs, which is,
and that's
honestly
a good race.
Sometimes you want to see.
Oh yeah, it's funny. If it happened every week, it would just be entertaining. It would be incredible. But unfortunately, we can't control the weather. We can't make it rain. But yeah, when it does rain, it absolutely just makes it unbelievable in F1. Again, we keep saying it. Germany's off the calendar for next year, and they produced the best race, comfortably the best race. I think. I mean, one of the best races ever, maybe in F1. Just the unpredictability. I remember watching it and just thinking it's going to calm down at some point, but it just never did. Things just kept happening. People get spinning off. People get crashing. People get retiring.
It was. I'd go on a limb and say, to be honest, until about the halfway point through the race, it was actually fairly good. But after the second safety car, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was just mayhem, absolute mayhem.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel sorry for the people trying to make highlights out of that race with the video. I don't know how they cut it down to 7 minutes.
Right, just post the entire thing.
Start a petition. It could be the last German Grand Prix ever. Let's get it online. Get it on YouTube for free. Listen, F1, that's what we want.
I was just really glad they saw sense and didn't start behind the safety car. They actually have a standing start, because the rolling start is interesting.
Well, yeah, they've started as a rolling start for less, to be honest.
Yeah, they have. I think it's a new rule, though, isn't it? If there is a safety car, they would pull up to the grid in their order and then do it. I think that was a new rule that was brought in a couple of years ago, maybe for this year.
Yeah, it was a good rule, and I remember there being quite a lot of not controversy, but just kind of like, oh, what are they doing? Because they dropped the lap count down from 6. It's not 68. It's it was 6.
Hockenheim.
Was it 68?
Might have been down because of that, because they had a few. It was meant to be 67. You're right away, but it was 64 in there. Maybe because of the time limit.
They did 4 laps behind the safety car and just dropped the.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And then just dropped the lap count.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. It's a Grand Prix distance. They're using fuel at the end of the day. Not more, but still using fuel, so they have to do it. Them's the rules. But yeah, another 4 laps, something else might happen. You never know. The way it was going. I mean, Carlos Sainz finishing 5th for McLaren, that was a relatively boring thing that happened in that race. It's kind of expected at that point almost, but compared to everything else, it was, yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't finish higher.
Well, that's one of them things if you get on Wikipedia like I have, where it's just like, someone's edited this to take the piss. This didn't happen.
Yeah.
But it did. So yeah, comfortably, I think Germany best race of the year. I'll read out some of the responses on Twitter. There's a lot. Germany was unsurprisingly the big favourite for the best one. Viandra Monasiaf, I probably said that wrong on Twitter. He says Germany was the best because everything happened every lap. Vettel fan 17 on Twitter. He also said the best wet race he's ever seen. Race changing so suddenly, tension from cars going off randomly. Vettel's comeback, Kvyat on the podium, Stroll up there too. You get the gist of that. Who else was there? There was a few others, I think. Oh yeah, Tom Miles is on. My good mate Tom Miles. Hope you're doing well, mate. Hope the karting career is going well. Without a doubt, the best for absolute carnage. Just the best race of the year, without a doubt. And I think that sums it up very well. Best race, without a doubt, unbelievable. We won't see it next year, not Germany at least. It's real sad, but there you go. But yeah, so thank you for joining us, lads. Really do appreciate it.
No problem.
It's been a pleasure.
And if this is the last podcast you will listen to before Christmas, then have a very Merry Christmas, anybody who's listening. And we'll be back in February, I believe, something to do with testing. We will keep you posted on the F1 Chronicle website and on our Twitter feeds and stuff like that as well. Be sure to check us out on the F1 Chronicle website and also on services like Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Omnicast, Pocket Casts, all that good stuff. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk. And also we have a Reddit as well, just for suggestions. New F1 podcasts, looking for feedback. Anything you can give would be nice. If you still hate our mustache, then that's fine. Just let me know. The beard is coming back though. Don't worry, it will be back. Give it a few more weeks.
I'm going to post that immediately.
Go for it, mate. Get some activity on there. But yes, thank you for joining us throughout this entire year. And hopefully the 2020 F1 vision is a good one. We'll see you in February. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later, everybody.